The exchange of ideas, the passing on of wisdom, the desire to engage the brain. For as long as humans have been capable of intelligible communication, these have been present in every iteration of every society, and storytelling has stood the test of time as a means to each of those ends. From the messages contained in ancient hieroglyphs and cave paintings, to the fables and folk tales of yore, and most notably in our modern literature, we, as a people, continue to turn to the telling of tales, whether wives or cautionary, as a means of engaging with others. Be it for the sake of education or entertainment, storytelling has been inextricably linked with civilization and has come to occupy many forms. From music to newscasting, cinema to written literature, art to dance, or from narration to animation, all of these media have in some way been present in the lives of each of us blessed with the appropriate senses to enjoy them. But as the title of this video should have clued you into, I am here today to focus primarily on one of these. That which many believe has been the undeserving recipient of much of the world's disrespect. Anime. Whether hand-drawn or nightmare-inducing, in the West we use the term anime to refer to animated cinematic or televisual works of Japanese style or origin. So by definition, yes, Japanese cartoons. Beware of confessing this out loud though, for the easiest things to do on earth are 1. To breathe, and 2. To upset anime fans. Despite the fact that the Japanese use the word anime to describe all animated works from Avatar to Futurama to Dora the Explorer, the dedicated anime fandom would be hard-pressed to accept such a dismissive definition because it's just that. Dismissive. It's a matter of respect. Not because anime transcends other media in terms of quality, but because it's given next to no acknowledgement as a form of art, and few things hurt as much as seeing something you love dearly and deeply continuously be the target of undeserving hate as the result of people's prejudices. As outrageous as this might seem, it's a feeling akin to having one of your nearest and dearest berated heavily. For many, if not most, fans, anime was a refuge through some form of rough patch in their lives. Something that cheered them up, made them smile, and kept them positive through hardship. Drawn in by the magical allure of this new and foreign entity with a warm, close-knit, and inviting community that fervently advocates for what it loves, they were able to lose themselves in something that brought them joy and find a place where they truly felt like they belonged. That's all anyone wants, and it's easy to understand how anime could scratch that itch with its incredible selection of titles and diverse storytelling across every major genre. Lovers of action could enjoy the beautifully choreographed fight scenes of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood tied together by an engaging story following a pair of tragedy-stricken brothers in search of the Philosopher's Stone to regain what alchemy's cruel laws of equivalent exchange robbed them of. Those of us down on our luck or in love with love might instead want to lose ourselves in a wholesome and uplifting story of pure and innocent romance like Studio Madhouse's My Love Story, where an unusual pair of lovebirds with no experience dating try their best to navigate the dynamics of being in a relationship while finding ways to show each other just how deep their love runs. If you appreciate the wholesome but
can't withstand the burning flames of passion that come with romance,
there are plenty of light-hearted comedies that I promise will get a few chuckles out of you. Be it Spy Family, the marvelous misadventures of the liar, the killer, and the mischievous mind-reading miner who engage in family-friendly shenanigans to hide their secrets from one another, or Haven't You Heard I'm Sakamoto, the perfect diaries documenting the daily life of the preciously preposterous person employing impossible plots and plans of poise and panache to puzzle out primarily pedestrian problems. Anime has a way of uniquely liberating laughs uncommon in Western comedy. The first problem people have with it. Although as a community we've come to accept exaggerated animation as easily as we accept exaggerating our Tinder bios, not everyone is the same. From the popping eyes of surprise to the drop of shock or sweat of regret, these ubiquitous visual cues usually signal that the often unlikely on-screen happenings are intended to be comedic and that it is now time to laugh. For most unfamiliar audiences, this is to the opposite effect. Taking advantage of the medium's flexibility and freedom of expression to play into ridiculous situations for cheap chuckles leaves most of the humor in anime feeling slapstick-esque, as with Mr. Bean, to reference a popular example. This reinforces the stereotype that anime is meant for kids, especially when juxtaposed against the Western idea of adult animation, usually represented by titles like The Simpsons or Family Guy, which try far less to be family-friendly. Add to this the facts that everyone is a child and everyone is a child, and distaste quickly turns to disdain. I'll elaborate. The main cast of most anime series feature young characters of school age, most commonly in the 14 to 18 range. This is for two main reasons. 1. Making the characters school students often provides convincing reasoning for why two otherwise entirely distinct characters might interact or occupy the same environment. 2. For most Japanese people, high school was the prime of their lives. This was a time of freely pursuing their dreams, thoughtlessly indulging in the joys of childhood, and passing by their days in the company of their companions before being forced to give it all up upon either enrolling in a rigid university or joining the workforce. This is one of those things hard to understand because of the cultural barrier, but as I've come to interpret it, Japanese people look back on their high school days as Westerners look back on their 20s. This doesn't excuse how far they stretch the concept, though. They were given an inch and have taken several miles across innumerable stories ill set for students. Be it Tokyo Revengers expecting us to accept that teenagers make up the gang infrastructure ruling their city, or My Hero Academia asking us to trust that this one class of students just happens to be on par with the tried and true veteran do-gooders. Many anime tend not to think through entirely what might be the best setting for their stories. Add again that even when the characters are not children, they still are, and we have a legitimate turnoff that no one should be chastised for being dissuaded by. I present to you the lolly. In English, we refer to them as someone's twisted way of trying to justify liking young girls by tagging them with ages that predate modern civilization so that nothing's illegal about it. Yes, I am fluent in degenerate, thank you very much. I've been speaking it all my life, and no, I will not go into depth about why I think sexualizing children is wrong. For those who nevertheless are fans of adult content of the non-erotic variety, we have the horror genre. This, I must confess, is anime's weakest point. Though we do have bone-chilling displays of terror, nary a time are they intentional. As one might expect, animation is not quite as prolific at delivering dread as even the least intimidating entries into Netflix's not-so-captivating catalog. Thus, for my recommendations here, I will bend the rules just a smidge and count anything grisly, grotesque, gothic, or gory, which of course is an excuse to include Attack on Titan. This post-apocalyptic part-time survival horror, part-time political drama is a story set in the one surviving civilization of a world that has long since been laid to waste by the Titans. Though the threat of these once inevitable entities had been mitigated since the erection of the walls, when the Titan to Titan all Titans appears and busts down their precious barrier, this generation that had only known peace is reminded of how truly precarious their existence had been. Though I could list off a few more similar stories like the fleetingly popular Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress, aka Steampunk Attack on Zombie Thingies, or the original HOTD that was nominated for a Nobel Prize in Jiggle Physics, I think those would be less horror and more horrible for real fans of the genre. Instead, I offer Shiki. albeit older and bereft of jump scares, if you can look past some of the early annoying characters so painful to watch that you can't wait for them to get got, it provides a well-paced and engaging mystery revolving around a series of inexplicable deaths that plague a small country village. If the sights are an important part of the horror experience for you, however, at the cost of lesser storytelling, another is a graphic mystery revolving around a series of inexplicable deaths that plague a small classroom. Now, despite my making those two stories sound nigh identical as my desperate attempt at entertaining you, something I hope you've been realizing is that anime manages a myriad of methods of make-believe, much like live-action television or cinema. As opposed to the aforementioned comedy-driven Western adult cartoons that tend almost never to have overarching plots or stories, just about every anime series has something it tries to achieve and something it tries to tell you. Although anime is held back by the fact that it's animated, with some people truly not being suited for it and others just discriminating against all things animated under the guise of being the former, this is still one of its greatest strengths. Anime possesses a special feel to it for the same reason that live-action renditions of Disney movies are never able to capture the magic of the originals. No matter how masterful the direction or skilled the acting, photorealism's ability to convey emotion pales in comparison to the freedom of expression of animation. Without concerns of the feasibility of convincingly portraying ambitious scenes with props or CGI, and without having to worry about whether an actor can really accomplish a certain feat, more so without shame, anime enjoys a creative liberty absent in those more popular and better respected media. A modern masterclass on these ideas would have to be Made in Abyss. Truly beautiful in its simplicity, yet deceptively complex beneath the surface. In this dark fantasy icon, a young girl hoping to follow in the large footsteps of her inspiring mother ventures into the abyss with her newly befriended robot companion. Plunging ever further beneath the surface of the earth with no way back, she discovers the gruesome reality they left out in the stories about that place. With an innocent art style and adventurous premise, Made in Abyss takes advantage of the negative preconceptions associated with anime of its appearance to mislead and shock its audience with its unexpected unease. Further yet, combining the creative liberties of anime with good animation's consistency of portrayal between different aspects of a world, from its characters to environments and creatures, produces this special immersion from having a world feel more real and within itself than is usually possible for real people, without instead feeling unimaginative and having to dial back the fantastical elements, as in series like The Sandman, despite its premise being one that should make it every bit as kooky as anime itself. Now, before we move on from the delights the fantasy genre has to offer, it'd be remiss of me not to include an entry without a content warning, and for that, we have Ranking of Kings, a beautiful underdog story about a young and feeble prince looked down upon by his whole kingdom for his powerlessness as he tries, with little success, to better himself so that he might eventually become a worthy ruler and rise to first place in the titular Ranking of Kings. I already have a video up on this that criminally underperformed, so if you want to hear everything I have to say about this gem, go on over there. The point of my mentioning so many series in this video isn't to review or share my thoughts on them so much as to address another of the problems anime has. A significant barrier to entry for people who might be willing to give anime a shot is the lack of recommendations suitable for them. Independent research into what's popular isn't unlikely to lead one to the isekai, ecchi, or endless, which all have their ways of encouraging people to click away and never look back. For that reason, every anime I have and will mention, with positive remarks, will lean towards being beginner friendly so you or someone you know can enjoy them without already having invested 30,000 hours into understanding anime and Japanese culture. Contrary to popular belief, most anime don't consist of 800 plus episodes. With short seasons, normally of 12-20-minute episodes, anime provides a gripping, high-intensity experience you can get through in an evening. Faster even than your 8-episode drama and about as quick as Don't Look Up, but without making you not want to look up at the screen half the time. That being said, if you truly wish to feel transported away, more so than fantasy, adventure is where it's at. The perfect place to start would of course be what doubles both as the grandest adventure ever written and the greatest world ever built. One Piece. The saga of exploration on the high seas has gone on strong for a quarter century and only gets better with time as we inch ever closer to the elusive finish line we hope never to reach, for this truly is the case of the treasure being the journey itself. With amazing pacing and lightning-fast plot progression, by the time you've watched all 1,000 currently available episodes, you'll find yourself willing to do anything for more, and unable to do anything else as the result of old age. In case anyone couldn't tell that I was joking from having amazing pacing and 1,000 episodes in the same sentence, especially after criticizing endless anime, I offer you instead Cowboy Bebop. This well-aged, surprisingly down-to-earth space adventure features a memorable cast of intergalactic bounty hunters evading their pasts in a captivating and well-directed tale that has half stood the test of time thanks to its banger opening that the uninitiated can't berate on the basis of indecipherable lyrics. If you were really hoping for something more grounded in reality or akin to the seafaring One Piece, but of a manageable length, consider instead Vinland Saga. 3 words: blood, war, Vikings. Okay, I have more than just 3. This historical piece set in the High Middle Ages is centered on young Thorfinn's pursuit of revenge against his father's killer. The only problem is, the man he's after so far surpasses him that he fails no matter how hard he tries, which leads him down a dark path. This is a story easier to adjust to than most because its telling isn't as Japanese as your run-of-the-mill anime. Worry not though, for it still does deliver the bangingest of jams, something I've brought up twice now because that's another thing I'd like to talk about. Although we have shows like Stranger Things that have made music a huge part of the viewing experience and even plot, as someone who already had Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill downloaded and playing in my car before season 4 ever came out, there's a certain charm Western television fails to grasp by using music that's already out there in the world. Every anime has a dedicated soundtrack made to its specification with songs tailored to characters, settings, and moments to truly bring out the maximum emotional effect of every major scene. Even outside of the actual story, the openings and endings help, respectively, to ramp you into and out of the episode in a way only Jeff Thu could comprehensively explain. This music is so ingrained in the identity of anime that veteran viewers can identify a title from mere seconds of the intro, much like is popularly achieved by
Our whole universe was in a hot, dense state.
The Big Bang Theory. Though anime instead have full-length songs that change every 12 episodes to a season. Having brought up The Big Bang Theory, I feel obligated to assure you that not all anime are about stabbing people. We have sports series like Hajime no Ippo that are about punching them instead. I don't count that as a sports anime, and besides, much like Eyeshield 21 or Slam Dunk, the manga's better. Sports anime, as the name should very clearly suggest, are about sports. Not just as an excuse to dumb them down through drawings, but to tell the stories of the individuals involved. From tackling the tales of the physically disadvantaged who took to a sport out of wide-eyed admiration before they ever knew what hardships that it entailed, to exploring the impact of one's mental state on their ability to strive for prosperity in any competitive setting, or further yet still, addressing love, self-exploration, and the crippling dread of discovering you've devoted your life to something you found out far too late you have no talent in. This is the genre where real people are given reflavored real-world challenges that we can relate to beyond whatever choice of ball, racket, or apparel is used as a high-budget, well-choreographed metaphor to help us understand precisely the feeling the writers are trying to get across. While on the topic of sports, as many good things as I've said about anime, when asking other fans whether or not they believed it was for everyone, sports were a common comparison. As the Olympics always remind us, there exists such a wide array of sports that a reasonable argument could be made that every person could find one that they either enjoyed playing or otherwise consuming if they were willing to seek it out. In reality, that's far from the case. Although I do think anime holds a better argument on account of its being designed primarily to entertain, I do agree with the sentiment. People have preferences. Just as most people don't find the need to turn to sports as their source of entertainment when they have perfectly good alternatives, the case is similar with anime. Although giving it a fair shake would likely yield fruit and diversify one's interests, which is always a good thing, some people are perfectly content with whatever pastimes they already have, and it'd be unfair to call them close-minded. Unlike them, however, I don't personally mind passing time watching others pass time, and if you're of a similar inclination, the difficult-to-define slice-of-life genre is for you. Ranging from cute girls do cute things, to cute boys do cute things, to cute animals do Tarantino movie. As originally intended, slice-of-life stories are meant more to be a slice out of the life of a character without special focus on plot development, conflict, or exposition. But we really just come to toss everything we can't convincingly place in another genre here. Therefore, ODDTAXI's story of your average glum taxi driver inadvertently unearthing the secrets throwing his city into chaos through chance encounters with his patrons, and Violet Evergarden's chronicle of a young, ill-adjusted war veteran writing letters for people in hopes of one day understanding the last words of her mentor, both end up lumped into this category. For an allegedly deeper and more thought-provoking story, we have Erased representing the mystery genre. An age-old, time-leaping, synonym for story that begins with L, about a man sent back into his childhood to undo the events leading up to him being framed for his mother's murder, which all began with a string of missing kids. For a genuinely deeper and more thought-provoking story, we have the psychological thriller Psycho-Pass. Putting morality into question, this one's set in a Japan governed by the Sybil system, an almost precognitive person of interest-esque computer system that's always watching and scanning your brain for criminal intent and determining whether you stand as a threat to society or not. Based on the swing of your mood or your response to external stimuli, if your Psycho-Pass goes up too high, beware the inspectors and fear the enforcers, for your time in the sun is done. Honorable mention: Death Note, the story about the guy that writes people's names in a book and they die, should be here, but everyone will inevitably be bullied into giving it a gander anyway, so forgive me for trying to ration the juice in my last 2 brain cells as I try make it through this video. If that's a familiar feeling for you, something more thriller and less psychological like the single-season classic The Promised Neverland, that was never fortunate enough to get a second season, might be more your speed. This one's so good that even the plot is a spoiler, but it's about a group of high-achieving children that are smarter than I am trying to prepare themselves for the struggles they believe await them once they leave the shelter of the orphanage they've spent their entire lives in without ever leaving a single time. If hearing that brings to your mind feelings of being trapped, know that that was in some ways what a lot of fans felt when starting out early in their lives. Getting absorbed in the beautiful escapist fantasy of so many of these lovingly crafted worlds was something that got a lot of people through a lot of things, myself included. So when I read something like chapter 1060 of One Piece and can no longer can, it's less because of what's happening on the pages and more about what it means for the story that has been the most constant thing in my life for as long as I can remember. In some way, an anime, or anime as a whole, has held that role in the lives of many members of the community, and that's what's led to them standing with such determination and unity in its defense. It's beautiful. Until you actually become a part of it and realize that's only a front and they always want to have each other's heads, with everything from sub versus dub to "but can he beat Goku" to "my taste is better than yours" to "the manga's better" to "who is best girl." I try not to get involved too much in those debates, but as some of you probably had a thing for Shigo, Azula, Cerebellum, Optimus Prime, or Lola Bunny, I ain't judge. I'm sure you can understand that we need to fight to defend the honor of our waifus, cause Helen of Troy has nothing on Speedwagon. For those interested instead in the husbando market, fear not, for we have our fair share of delectable daddies that'd put even Li Shang to shame. I mean, serious business aside, considering the fond memories we all have of some of the cartoons we watched as kids, even those of us who saw the Flintstones live, I feel the need to mention that not all anime tries to make itself for everyone. We still have some aimed at kids that we can use our little pals as an excuse to watch, like Doraemon, which follows a blue cat robot from the future that comes back to help a young boy persist through his future struggles and keep his life on track. A feel-good, wholesome anime about helping others, having fun, and getting along. If they're too old for you to force through that, the timeless Pokémon's a great substitute. If you've come this far and haven't found anything that sounds even remotely interesting to you, perhaps the anime based on niche topics are what you've been searching for. Dr. Stone is set in a world where everything came grinding to a halt when everyone was mysteriously petrified one day. Over 3,000 years later, the first of the humans awoke to find civilization had come to an end, and the story follows them trying to science their way back to the modern day while seeking out the truth of what happened. Focusing less on trying to educate you and more on trying to make you feel, Shōwa Genroku Rakugo Shinjū follows a young ex-yakuza fresh out of prison who has decided to leave behind his life of crime in favor of becoming a Rakugo performer to take after the man who inspired him while he sat behind bars. My Dress-Up Darling is a waifu-bait rom-com about an aspiring Hina doll maker and a passionate cosplayer exchanging their gifts to help each other grow as people and aspire towards what they love. And of course, if I'm going to hype up what music does for anime, I should talk about what anime does for music. Two sides of one coin are Your Lie in April and Carol and Tuesday, and not for their calendar references. The former follows a piano prodigy famed for the precise perfection of his play, who in his trauma loses his ability to hear the sound of a piano following his strict mother's passing. Upon meeting an eccentric violinist who wishes for him to accompany her, his world is turned upside down as she tries to restore color to his life. The latter isn't so much about music saving you as you saving music. Set 50 years after humans began their migration to Mars, it's one of those princess and the peasant stories about two people from vastly different backgrounds coming together over something they love: music. With AI having taken over the music industry, like much of everything else, this duo tries to convey their feelings through their music and prove there's still a place for them. If it exists, there's probably an anime about it, and if you exist, there's probably an anime for you. Assuming you can see and hear. Of course, as much as I've tried to put on display all the good stuff, there's just as much, if not more, unwatchable garbage out there which has contributed to the negative image anime has today, with many viewing it as some form of vice. I can't even say that's completely unfair when at some point in time interspecies reviewers held the top spot on my anime list. People don't all interpret and perceive what happens on our corner of the web the way we do, and that might include the older folks who had already aged past the point of most kinds of television by the time anime was popularized, because it does appeal most strongly to young adults. I've held this off for long enough now. This is the question we all came here to have answered. Is anime really for everyone? Honestly, I don't think so. I wholeheartedly believe it's worth giving a try, but if not even all Japanese people are fans of anime beyond the Doraemon or Shimajiro they were force-fed as children, what more of the aunties back home in India who've subsisted happily off Bollywood movies for decades, or the uncles in Nigeria enjoying the finest Africa has to offer? Cultural barriers can't be overlooked, and even if we ignore them, we can't separate biases from those who wield them. Some people will be miserable watching anime specifically because they don't want to enjoy anime, and that's just how it is. I appreciate you listening to me ramble on for so long. If I was able to successfully entertain or inform you, share the joy with someone you know, or help someone else find this video by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Seeing the small number get bigger really helps me feel like there's a point to doing this. This video's taken me a long time to prepare and will take a similarly long time to edit, so if you want to help me hire an editor to upload higher quality videos more consistently, or would like the chance to be in a future video, consider supporting me over on Patreon. My computer's been busted, so I had to go away for a while, and I've borrowed an office computer to try remain active, but that's been a struggle, so I don't know if I can maintain a good schedule at the moment. Just had to let you know. That's going to be it for today, folks. Thank you to the patrons Oliver Warwick, Connor Sanders, and Lucas HF for helping make this video possible. Lovely having you guys as always, and until next time, that's a goodbye from Ken-chan.